are not broken. What if everything you've believed about anxiety, all the ways you've tried to fight it, control it, escape it, are exactly what's been keeping you trapped? Carl Jung didn't see anxiety as a flaw. He saw it as an encrypted message, not from your mind, but from your soul. Listen carefully, because when you finally understand what your anxiety is really trying to tell you, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Picture it. It's late at night. Your thoughts won't stop. Bills, relationships, tomorrow. You reach for your phone, hoping for distraction. But the unease doesn't fade. It grows. To most people, anxiety is an enemy, something to fight, suppress, escape from. But what if that belief, that anxiety must be eliminated, is the very thing feeding it? Jung didn't call anxiety a disorder. He called it a signal. He believed everything we repress, our buried emotions, forgotten dreams, the parts of us we're too afraid to live out, none of it disappears. It just waits. And it comes back, disguised as anxiety. Most people never stop to ask, what is my anxiety trying to tell me? They search for quick relief, pills, distractions, someone to soothe them endlessly. And sometimes that works, for a little while. But the feeling always returns, louder, heavier. Why? Because the real root remains untouched. Jung once wrote, "What you resist not only persists, it grows. The more you run, the bigger your anxiety becomes." He saw it as a compass, a precise, painful pointer toward the parts of ourselves we've ignored, buried, or hidden away. Think back. As a child, you felt everything: joy, fear, anger, sadness. But somewhere along the way, you were taught what was acceptable to feel and what wasn't. Maybe you were told, don't cry, don't get mad, don't dream too big. So you learned to build walls inside yourself. You hid the parts that didn't get approval. But the things you buried didn't die. They became what Jung called the shadow, the unseen fragments of your inner world. And the shadow never stays silent. It speaks through anxiety, through tension, through a quiet sadness that never makes sense, through that uncomfortable restlessness you feel even in peaceful moments. When you ignore your anxiety, you're not avoiding discomfort. You're avoiding yourself. But Jung would say, if you turn to that feeling, not with fear but with curiosity, you might finally start to understand what your soul is asking for. Imagine anxiety not as a monster, but as a messenger knocking on your door. Jung would tell you, don't run from it. Sit beside it. Ask it questions. What does this feeling mean? What part of me have I disowned? What am I afraid to see? For many people, anxiety is not a malfunction. It's a message from the unlived life, a job that suffocates you, a relationship that isn't true to you, a dream you buried so long ago, you almost forgot it was yours. Sometimes anxiety says, you are not where you're meant to be. Sometimes it whispers, there is more to you than this. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the price of growth. We live in a world that fears discomfort. Every ad tells you how to escape it. Take this pill, watch another episode, scroll endlessly. We've been trained to believe that anxiety must be silenced at all costs. But Jung believed that's a tragedy. Because every time you numb anxiety, you miss what it was trying to show you. The voice grows quieter, but the tension builds. The shadow grows stronger, and you feel more and more lost. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That tension in your chest, that restlessness in the silence, that's not weakness. That's the unconscious, trying to get your attention. Let's be honest, most people never face their anxiety. They build lives around avoiding pain. They choose predictability over possibility, safety over truth. But Jung believed healing requires courage. The courage to ask, what am I really anxious about? What am I avoiding? What have I rejected in myself? The answers aren't always beautiful. You might realize you silenced yourself to avoid conflict. You gave up a dream just to feel accepted. You betrayed your truth to keep the peace. But when you face that truth, you gain power. You stop being a victim of anxiety. You become its translator. Jung taught, the goal is not to eliminate anxiety. The goal is to understand it. Every racing thought, every tight breath, every sleepless night is an invitation, a doorway to something deeper. Ask yourself, if my anxiety could speak, what would it say? Maybe it would say, you're not living your truth. Or, you don't need to do more. You need to rest. Or, there's a conversation you've been afraid to have. When you begin to listen, really listen, things start to shift. The anxiety softens. The message becomes clearer. What once felt like punishment starts to feel like guidance. And here's the thing. You have a choice. You can keep running, keep numbing, keep hoping it disappears. Or you can stop, turn toward the fear, and ask, why are you here? What do you want me to know? Most people never ask. They stay in the same cycle, wondering why nothing changes. But you're here, now, and that means you're ready for something else. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into the exact steps Jung used to help people transform anxiety from a prison into a path. You'll learn how to uncover the buried needs and forgotten dreams your anxiety is pointing to, and how to begin integrating your shadow into your everyday life. Stay with me, because how you relate to your anxiety shapes everything about how you relate to yourself. Let's go deeper. Carl Jung believed that every experience of anxiety is a message, encrypted in the secret language of your shadow. Most people don't realize that the shadow speaks through every sleepless night, every silent panic, every quiet ache in the middle of what's supposed to be a happy day. You might ask, why is my mind doing this to me? But Jung would ask something else. What have you silenced for so long that it's now forcing its way out as anxiety? He taught that the shadow doesn't only contain your darkest impulses. It also holds your unused talents, forgotten dreams, your unlived life. Anxiety is often your intuition, trying to cut through the noise. It's the soul's way of saying, you are not on your path. Think about how society teaches us to deal with anxiety. Distraction, scrolling, food, noise, another episode, another notification, another numbing habit. We are trained to become experts in avoidance, not in healing. Jung warned, what you ignore becomes stronger. The more you suppress, the less you understand yourself. And the more you run, the more lost you become. He also wrote, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, just to avoid facing their own soul. Anxiety is an SOS from your soul. Ignoring it is like ripping the batteries out of a fire alarm, just because you're tired of the sound. Jung's solution was radical. Don't run. Don't numb. Turn toward the storm. When you feel anxious, pause. Don't ask, how can I make this stop? Ask, what is this trying to show me? You don't have to love what you find. Shadows are uncomfortable by nature, but when you face them, they begin to lose their power. Try this. Sit with your anxiety for just a minute. Notice where it lives in your body. Your chest, your stomach, your hands. Instead of escaping, breathe into it. Ask yourself, what fear is underneath this feeling? What part of myself have I ignored? What is my life trying to bring to the surface? Sometimes the answer will surprise you. You might realize you've been saying yes to too many things you don't want. You might grieve for the ambition you buried years ago. Or you may see clearly that you've betrayed your own values, just to belong. Jung called this process shadow work. But the goal isn't to eliminate your shadow or erase your anxiety. The goal is to befriend what you've been hiding from yourself. Jung believed most anxiety comes from a fracture within, a tension between the part of you that wants to be seen and the part you've kept hidden, between the life you long to live and the life you feel trapped inside. Integration means giving your shadow a seat at the table, not letting it run your life, but giving it a voice. Ask yourself, what do I really need right now? What am I craving but denying? What old wound am I still carrying? The more honest you become, the less control anxiety has over you. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And instead begin to ask, what is my soul trying to say? Here's the hard truth. Sometimes anxiety is a real warning about a toxic job, a draining environment, a life that doesn't feel like yours. Jung believed the cost of ignoring these messages is always greater than the cost of facing them. So if your anxiety says, this isn't working, don't just try to endure it. Listen. Is it fear or is it wisdom? Am I living for myself or for approval? What would I choose if I weren't afraid? Often the thing we fear the most is exactly what we need in order to become whole. Jung taught, healing isn't about eliminating discomfort. It's about using anxiety as a compass, a direction pointing you toward deeper meaning. If anxiety is a signal from an unlived life, then ask yourself, what part of life do I need to start living? What have I postponed, rejected, or hidden? Maybe it's time to take a step, have the hard conversation, or return to the dream you buried long ago. Maybe you simply need to rest, to grieve, to admit that the old path no longer fits you. Healing doesn't mean feeling safe all the time. It means being willing to listen, even when the message is uncomfortable. Jung's method was never just theory. He believed in practices, small daily actions that rewire your relationship with yourself. Here are a few. Writing. Write to your anxiety. Ask it questions. Let it answer you. Dream work. Your dreams are the voice of your unconscious. Pay attention to the images that visit you at night. Movement and creativity. Draw, dance, sing, create. Let your shadow express itself without needing words. Silence and nature. Walk alone. No music. No distractions. Let your thoughts rise, without judgment. Honest conversations. Speak your truth to someone you trust. Sometimes anxiety only needs to be heard. Over time, these practices create a space where anxiety is no longer an enemy, but a teacher. Here's the truth. You will never eliminate anxiety entirely. Life is uncertain. Shadow work is endless. But each time you face your anxiety with honesty, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Jung wrote, Healing is not a straight line, it's a spiral. You meet your fear again, but with a new understanding. What once felt impossible becomes possible. You stop being at war with yourself. You begin to work with yourself. Most people never take this path. They choose comfort, distraction, and half-truths. But if you're still here, you're already different. Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Your anxiety doesn't define you. It reveals you. It's not a defect. It's a doorway to growth. In the final part, we'll reveal the master key Jung believed could transform anxiety into strength. You'll learn how to change your relationship to fear and build a life not around avoidance, but around meaning. Don't miss it. Because when you learn to see anxiety through Jung's eyes, you'll finally start to see yourself clearly. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most. They spend their whole lives running from anxiety, trying to shut it down, never realizing they're really running from themselves. But Jung taught, real healing begins the moment you stop running, stand still, and begin to listen. Here is the turning point. Anxiety is not a destroyer. It is a guide. Imagine how different your life would be if, every time anxiety came, you asked, "What is my soul trying to tell me?" Instead of blaming yourself for feeling this way, you'd become curious, maybe even grateful. Jung believed this is the edge, the moment where your old self ends and the real you begins. The moment you stop running from discomfort and begin to learn from it. You become the author of your story. What did Jung consider the master key to transforming anxiety? Integration. Integration is the process of uniting what's been divided, bringing together the conscious and the unconscious, the accepted and the rejected, the light and the dark. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Integration means nothing inside you is lost. Not your fears, not your doubts, not your forgotten dreams. When you bring them into the light, they stop sabotaging you and start guiding you. Anxiety begins to soften when it is seen. The shadow becomes a source of wisdom. So where do you begin? Name the truth. Say out loud what you've been avoiding. Allow yourself to feel. Let yourself feel everything, not just what's acceptable. Accept your full self. Your confusion, sensitivity, and longing, they all deserve space. Act from your center. Make choices rooted in self-awareness, even when they scare you. Every small, honest action is a thread, weaving your fractured parts into a coherent whole. Transformation isn't always a breakthrough. Sometimes, it's a quiet moment when instead of running, you take a breath and stay with yourself. Sometimes, it's admitting you're tired of pretending. Sometimes, it's taking just one step toward a life that truly feels like yours. Jung's clients who practiced integration didn't cure their anxiety overnight, but something shifted. Anxiety stopped being a tyrant. Self-trust returned. Relationships deepened. Inspiration resurfaced. Fear of the unknown lost its grip, because they were no longer at war with themselves. Imagine that starting today, you begin seeing anxiety as a masked friend. And each time it shows up, you ask, what part of me have I rejected? What dream have I buried? What truth am I afraid to admit? You stop blaming yourself. You stop chasing perfection. You become an explorer of your own soul. You let anxiety guide you to the parts of you that need care. You may never eliminate it forever, but you can free yourself from the prison of misunderstanding. The gift of self-compassion. Jung taught, true healing is impossible without self-compassion. Most people meet their anxiety with judgment. Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just escape? Of course I'm anxious. I've held so much inside for so long. I'm learning to listen. I'm growing. You begin to see anxiety not as a personal weakness, but as a natural response to a complex life. Compassion gives you space to heal, to change, to try new things, even when they're scary. This shift, from self-judgment to self-understanding, is the foundation of every transformation. Jung believed your story is always evolving. Anxiety is not the end, it's a beginning. It's a call to adventure, the moment you step out of comfortable illusions and into the path of self-awareness. The only question is, will you answer the call or repeat the old patterns? You are not alone. Hundreds of thousands around the world are waking up to this truth. Anxiety is not the enemy. It is the gate to power. If this message resonates, share your experience in the comments. What has your anxiety already revealed to you? What lessons have you learned since you stopped running and started listening? Your story might become someone else's lifeline. And if you want more psychology, philosophy, honest reflections on growth, subscribe. We're building a space not for those who want to mask symptoms, but for those ready to change their lives from the inside out. Jung wrote, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." If you've made it this far, you are already awakening. You are not your anxiety. You are the one who finally started listening. Your life is too precious to be run by fear. Your life is too precious to be run by fear. Every moment where you listen, integrate, and act from your truth is a victory. Let today be the beginning. The moment you stop running and begin turning anxiety into your greatest teacher.